What's up guys? Welcome back to David's Feed. In this episode, we're taking a look at David's private collection, and more specifically, hand feeding the most incredible snake which he owns. Keep watching. Alright, quickly before the video begins, I just need to announce that the merch collaboration with Discover Snakes is back online, so check out the link in the description so you can cop one of these awesome items of clothing and support our channel in the meantime. Thank you.
Hey guys, welcome back. As announced in our last video, this week is going to be different because we're stuck in Europe due to Corona, so I'm going to show you guys in a few videos over the next couple of weeks some of my own animals. So this is my small, humble snake room. My collection isn't very large at the moment, but today we're specifically going to be focusing on one new snake, and I'll show you some of the other snakes in future videos to come. As you can probably see by the title of the video, or if you follow me on Instagram, you'll know that a couple weeks ago I bought a King Cobra. Now, King Cobras are actually by far my favorite species of snake worldwide. This one is almost 2 years old. You can see he's hiding underneath his cork bark right now. Right under there. I'm sorry, it's a little bit dark right now. That's actually because a couple weeks ago, all of the lights, like the lights of every single enclosure that I have, died at the same time. I think there must have been like an electricity overload or something during a storm. I'm not quite sure what happened, but yeah, the lights are all completely broken. It's not really a problem for the snakes because they're not getting their source of heat from lights. They have heating pads under some of the enclosures, as well as I'm heating the entire room 24/7. And they do get light because these lights stay on most of the day and there's a window, so they definitely get enough light to like see and do stuff. But for filming, the like darker crevices of some of the enclosures are not really that well visible. So for the sake of this video and making it easier to see for you guys, I'm going to use this little battery powered thing just to put on top so you guys can see what we're doing. I'm going to start to carefully tap, and that's usually going to wake him up and he'll start coming out. You can see he's just hiding underneath his cork there. He's definitely already woken up and noticed something's going on. I saw him move just a moment ago. So we're going to open his enclosure and see if we can get him out from underneath there without completely wrecking the setup. Come on. You coming out? Let me just grab a hook real quick. Yes, I do occasionally use hooks, but I wouldn't actually have to for this one because he is just the sweetest. You'll see in a moment. He also just recently shed 2 days ago, so he's in his prime beauty right now. As you can see, those highly iridescent scales. I don't know, on video it's just coming out as blue, but in real life there's like rainbow colors visible. He's real beautiful. Oh, hello. And of course he has that bright blue tongue, typical of King Cobras. Come on, out you go. I hope he's nice and hungry, because he wasn't shed recently, so he didn't have a meal for a while, which means we're going to be feeding him today. In addition to being one of the calmest King Cobras I've ever seen, he's also by far one of the most beautiful. Oh, are we getting a slight hood there? Alright, so he's out now, which means we're going to take him out and move him into the feeding tub. I like to just put him in a tub for feeding so that we can see him eat, or else he'll just take the mouse and drag it into his hide where we won't be able to see. Hello. It's important to be very slow and gentle in order not to scare him, because the only time a snake will really bite you is if it's scared. Not that I'm recommending anyone to try this. As you can see, Steve, well, I haven't actually decided on a final name yet. I was playing around with the idea of naming him Steve, but it's not final, so if I find a better name, I might actually change it. So if you have any name suggestions that you think would be good, feel free to leave them down below. and if I see a name I like, I might just name it that. But I do really like the name Steve. So for now, for this video, he's gonna be Steve. Alright, so I'm carefully gonna bring Steve out and move him to the feeding tub. First we'll play with him a little just to show how sweet he is. As you can see, he's very, very accustomed to being handled. Not afraid of me at all. Come on, out you go. Alright, we're gonna move to a different corner of the room where there's a bit more light. Over here should be good. Alright, so as you can see, he is extremely curious, as King Cobras are. King Cobras are some of the most curious snakes in the world. And they're also very intelligent. He's not like some other snakes that will just like strike at random movement and bite. They're very careful, they always think about what they do. And he knows that I mean him no harm, which is why he's not at all interested in biting me. Sometimes I wonder if they like being pat like this, because sometimes when I'm patting him, he'll actually stay still. And it seems as if he's like enjoying some chin rubs. He's still quite small now, but already extremely beautiful. And I think as he gets bigger, that will only improve. Here's Steve. As you can see, he's completely relaxed and showing no signs of being defensive. He's totally comfortable being handled this way, which is why he doesn't feel the need to try and hood up or strike or anything. And just because I know some of you guys are going to say it, no, he is not defanged or not a venomoid. He still has his fangs and venom glands perfectly intact. I would never remove the glands or anything from one of my snakes because that's just insanely cruel. He's so curious. Hello, Steve. Come on. Where's he going? Hello. As you can see, he is really curious. Always moving around, sniffing things. And he's just the sweetest King Cobra I've ever seen. He's like only ever hooded up once, which was when he was startled by a new enclosure. But other than that, he's been just a complete puppy dog. Get a zoom in on that front view. I think the frontal view of a King Cobra is just the most derpy looking thing ever. See what I mean? Sometimes when I'm just giving him chin rubs, he'll actually stay still and not try to move away. Pretty neat. Alright, so I think we've played with him enough, and you guys were able to get a really nice view of him. So now we're going to move him into the feeding tub, and we're going to proceed with feeding him. Now, you probably already know that king cobras are snake eaters. It's actually in their Latin name, Ophiophagus hanna, and Ophiophagus means snake eater in Greek. But in captivity, they'll also quite readily eat other things. And if you have a captive king, it's actually good to teach them to eat other things than snakes, because sometimes, like now for example, it's really hard to get hold of feeder snakes. And of course you don't want your snakes going hungry, so having a snake that's not picky is quite useful if you have one as a pet. So today we're going to be feeding him rodents, and when I get more feeder snakes in, we might do a feeding video of him eating a snake. Let me just put this on here for a moment while I go get the rodents. Alright, the rodents are ready. King cobras have a really high fast metabolism, so they eat quite a lot. Alright, maybe if you just come around the other side of it. So as you saw, Steve is very, very calm and relaxed when being handled, and unlike many king cobras which have a very strong feeding response, Steve is actually equally calm while being fed. As you can see, I might be able to even do it like this. You can see he will smell the food and just very gently take it. See? Just like that. And then he will very rapidly begin the process of swallowing it. King cobras eat really fast, well, all cobras in general, compared to like some vipers which take hours and hours to eat their prey. These guys are like race cars. He'll probably eat all of these mice within like 5 minutes. So he's got the head a little bit sideways, but once he gets it perfectly down his throat, he'll start to swallow it much quicker. Maybe I can help him get it right by just... Sometimes when you pull on the prey item, it will make them be able to eat it easier. See? Now he's got the snout of the rodent down properly, and he's proceeding to eat a lot faster. And sometimes what I like to do, this is a little trick called train feeding, because it's like a train. Once they finish with one, you continue to right away insert the next. That way the feeding process will get done a lot quicker, and you don't have to wait in between each rodent for him to swallow it and then get ready to eat the next. Of course, I don't recommend anyone to try anything like this themselves without forceps. I'm only able to do this with Steve because he is just so exceptionally well behaved. None of my other snakes I can hand feed like this. See? And that way he just continuously swallows the rodents as if it's a long train, and makes the feeding process so much faster and easier. They really can swallow faster if you slightly pull on the prey to offer resistance, because then their teeth can just walk down it much better. As you can see, he's nearing finishing the second rodent. All I have to do for train feeding, just come in, grab the next, and he will continue to swallow it as if nothing happened. This works for almost all snakes, by the way. So if you have like a ball python or some other snake and you're in a rush to feed it, this is a good trick. Of course, I recommend using forceps. Alright, so this is going to be his last rodent of this week's feeding. As you can see, he's just eating so fast, chomping it down. Maybe if I come real low with the camera, you can even see his little fangs in there. King Cobras are elapids, which means they have fixed front fangs, unlike vipers, which have those long, hinged, folding fangs like a pocket knife. You can just see below the eye, a little bit towards the snout, that little pointy thing, that is actually the fang. You can't see it right now, but you can see it every time he like shifts his jaw. See? Very small fang. But not to be taken lightly, because they do have incredibly potent neurotoxic venom, as well as a very large venom yield. But luckily Steve is totally chill. You can see how while swallowing the rodents separate, you can see there's one rodent right about there, and there's another one there. And we're done. I've actually left one, the smallest rodent left over, because that one I'm going to give to one of my small monocled cobras, which was in shed during feeding the other night, so it didn't eat, so I'm going to give this one to the little monocled cobra, because he missed his meal 2 days ago. Alright, so he's now completely finished swallowing that last rodent, which means I'm going to just carefully make sure he's not in feeding mode still. But he's really smart, so I don't think he would mistake me for food. Nicely fed King Cobra. I'm going to bring him back to his enclosure. Just going to let him crawl in there. Put him up on the branch just so you guys can see him move around a bit. But he's probably very quickly going to retreat under his hide to digest his food. Alright, so he's going back in his hide. We'll close this up. And as I mentioned a moment ago, we're going to feed this last rodent to the small monocled cobra, well, one of them, which didn't eat 2 days ago. And that one is in here. And for this one, I definitely need forceps because this one is completely crazy. I bet he's under here. Yep. He's actually just not, it's always like that. I just said he's completely crazy, but this time he's being exceptionally calm. There we go, spreading a little hood. Oh. This is actually the calmest feeding response I've ever seen him have. But of course he's just being defensive towards me more than anything right now. There we go. And this guy also eats exceptionally quick, you can see. And he also has a really strong feeding response, meaning that once he holds onto something that he thinks is food, there's no way he's letting it go. You can see I can probably even lift his entire body off the ground, and he's not gonna drop that food for anything. See what I mean about cobras eating fast? You just chomp this whole thing down within like, what was that, like 2 minutes? Something like that. And the reason I'm holding the prey up like that is just so it doesn't get covered in substrate. Not that it's harmful for the snakes. If they eat a little substrate, it doesn't really matter, but it's just more like a little OCD thing for me. It bothers me to look at. Carefully put this hide back. Oh. As you can see, he probably thinks there's more food, so I gotta be extra careful. Gently put the hide back. Oh yeah, that's what I was talking about. Always being ultra defensive. Anyway. That was it for this week's video. I hope you liked it, and we're going to be coming out with several other snake videos of my collection, focusing on, probably we're going to cover every snake that I own, so stay tuned for that, and subscribe if you haven't already. Peace.
Hey guys, Rupert here. Thanks for watching, I hope you enjoyed the video, and of course there will be a new video next week, Thursday, so make sure you're subscribed and have the notification bell turned on. Peace out.